Then the action's on the second straddle with the 12, and they 3-bet it to 212, 500-ish in their stack at this point.
Hey YouTube.
G'day poker people, welcome back to the vlog. It's currently about 5 PM on a Monday afternoon, and we're just finishing up a long weekend in Melbourne. Not that I would have noticed because I just played poker all weekend anyway. But we've been invited back to yet another Melbourne home game. It's the same one with all these double board PLO bomb pots. It usually plays us a 1-3-6. Last time I played there, I was pretty underwhelmed with my performance overall and really looking to play a bit smarter today. Still want to vibe with the people, have a lot of fun at the game, but I don't think I need to give up as much EV as I did last time I played. So looking to play a bit smarter and also have fun at the game. So without any further ado, let's go. Welcome back everyone. It's currently about 12 hours or so removed from the end of the game yesterday. It did play as a 1-3-6 yet again, and we also had the button bounty and PLO double board bomb pots every time the button went off. So plenty of crazy action from the session to get into. Originally brought in for the 500, you see there. Now let's see if I run it up in the hand histories. Let's go. So first hand of the session was actually just a straight 1-3. It was the only straight 1-3 for the entire session. But in this hand, the low jack goes ahead and opens it up to 10. The small blind calls. Then I'm in the big blind with a 9-8 offsuit. I decide to throw in the call here. It is a bit loose, but like I said in the previous vlog from this game, I'm pretty happy to give a bit of action back, particularly when I am getting a good price to see a flop. So I throw in the call, and then we're 3 ways to a flop of Jack 10-3 with 2 hearts. So open-ended straight draw for us. And the small blind checks. I go ahead and check to the pre-flop aggressor. They go ahead and bet 13. Then the small blind calls. The action's back on me, and pretty interesting decision whether I want to just call or I want to raise here. The reasons I would like just calling are trying to bluff 2 people out of a pot can be a bit more difficult. Having said that though, we have a great semi-bluffing hand with really low showdown value, so there is a lot of incentive for us to bluff. And I do think that the person c-betting might be doing it a bit wide, and the person calling in the small blind might be calling a bit wide as well. So maybe it's a good spot to go for it for that reason. In game, however, I did decide to just call, not wanting to try and bluff 2 people near the start of the session, but in retrospect, maybe that's just a bit too passive. So we see the turn, which is the Queen of the Hearts. I check it over to the pre-flop aggressor. Pre-flop aggressor's in the tank for a while, and they start to cut out chips, and they end up betting 45. The small blind goes ahead and folds. The action's back on me, and we do have a mate straight, but obviously somewhat concerned that the front door flush draw did get in, as well as the opponent can definitely have all of the offsuit ace-king combinations in their range, which takes me back to maybe check raising on the flop was a good play to try and deny equity to that hand. So I don't really want to overplay my hand by inflating the pot too much here when a lot of my opponent's range is going to be ahead of me. So I decide to play it a bit passive and just call the 45. So we're still heads up to a river, which is the 5 of spades. I go ahead and check it over to the aggressor again. Maybe there is some merit to having a lead here if you think the opponent's going to check back and overpair, or maybe even play 2 pair really cautious. Checking it over to them does enable them to keep bluffing a lot of the hands in their range that want to bluff. So I check it over to them, then they go ahead and bet 80. Really don't think that there's any value in raising from this point. My opponent is representing a lot of strength by betting 3 straights, and they definitely have all the offsuit ace-king combinations, a bunch of flushes as well. Pretty much all of the ace-x of heart hands are going to be in their range. So I really think raising for value here would be too thin. Some merit to hero folding that their range is so strong, but I don't really like it. I do think it is possible they could be bluffing with like the naked ace of hearts, or even value betting a worse hand like pocket tens or jack 10 suited. It's just one of those spots. They do have bluffs in their range and worse value bets, so I really don't think we can go anywhere with our mate straight. So I do decide to call the 80 pretty quickly. And then my opponent shows King 9 of spades. So we end up putting our hand in the muck, and they get us on the first hand of this session. Next hand up, they're back, the double board PLO bomb pot. See there, we have what I think is a pretty strong PLO hand. Ace, Queen, 9-9 single suited to the ace. Is that how you say it in PLO? I'm a fish. But anyway, I'm going to put both the boards up there, and as you can see, we absolutely smash them. We have the nut trips on the second board, and on the first board, not only do we have middle set, but we also have the nut flush draw. So massive hand for us. So when the action checks to me in the cutoff, slam dunk spot to go ahead and pot it. In my opinion, I make it 70. And then then I get a call from both the button and the big blind. So we're 3 ways to a turn. The first turn is the ace of spades and the second turn is the 4 of hearts. And then the big blind actually decides to lead for 125. So the action's on me here, and we do have the second nuts on the second board. PLO rules can be a bit confusing, but we don't actually have a full house. We have the nut trips because you need to use 2 cards, which is always confuses me whenever I play PLO, and we do have a set and a nut flush draw on the top board, so really not concerned we're behind, and we do want to shovel as much money into this pot as we possibly can. And the question comes, do we get more money in the pot by raising our hand here, or do we get it by flatting and potentially inducing overcalls from the button? In game, I decided to just call, hoping to induce overcalls from the button, but maybe I should just try to rip it all in, trying to get stacks in when we're almost certainly an equity favourite against both the opponent's range. And it is somewhat possible we could bluff one of the opponents off pocket 10s on the first board, but not really holding my breath on that one. So I did just throw in the call and then the button folds. So we're heads up with the big blinds to the 2 rivers. The first one is the 3 spades, putting in the backdoor flush draw, and the second one is the 3 of clubs. And then the big blind actually goes ahead and checks it over to me, and I think we have a slam dunk decision to go all in here. We have the effective nuts on the second board, and really strong hand on the first board. We're really hoping the opponent's going to call off with a worse queen. So I go ahead and put them all in for 195, and then they start tanking, which is music to our ears. So they do start to tank, then they roll their eyes, and they finally do throw their chips in, and then we get to see that they had 8-7 on the first board, which is the flop straight. So they actually do beat our set with the flop straight, but we are winning the second board. It does make sense that they would tank on the river, being that the backdoor flush did get in, and they do lose for a lot of stuff now. But we're going to end up chopping this pot, and all things considered, pretty happy with the result of the hand, even though I did think there was a decent chance we would scoop with such a strong hand. Next hand, the hijack limps, and then a tight aggressive small blind raises it up to 25. Then I'm in the big blind and I look down at pocket 10s. Slam dunk 3 bet spot in my opinion. I go ahead and make it 75. The original limper folds, and the small blind throws in the call. So we're heads up to a flop, which is 3-3 deuce rainbow. Small blind checks it over to me, and I think I have a pretty clear c-bet spot with this hand in particular. It's a good spot to get value from worse pocket pairs, which are probably going to fold on a lot of scary turns. And additionally, even if we deny equity to a hand like king queen or king jack, pretty happy to do that and just take the pot down now. Definitely want to use a large sizing whenever I c-bet on a board this wet with so many overcards to it. I decided to go ahead and bet 60 in game. I think maybe I could go even a bit bigger. You do want to size down a little bit in 3-bet pots, just given that the SPR is going to always be a bit lower. But I think we could even go ahead and bet something like 80, and it would still be a reasonable play on this board texture. Whatever the case, I bet 60, and then the opponent throws in the call. We're off to the turn, which is the 6 of spades. Great turn for us. We still have an overpair. Small blind checks it over to me, and we have 2 decisions. We can either check or put the opponent all in for about 260 effective, a bit under the size of the pot, and I think the better play is to move all in here. We can maybe still get called by pocket 8s and pocket 9s, or maybe even an ace high that wants to get really sticky if they put us on a bluff. And the problem with checking this hand back is that we might potentially give the opportunity for my opponent to draw out to like higher overcards, and even if they do want to call off with a worse hand like pocket 8s, we don't want them to get scared off on the river. We'd rather try and get them for stacks now. So that's what I do. I go ahead and rip it all in for 265, and my opponent is in the tank, and the first thing they say in the tank is, I really think we're chopping. Straight away pretty much indicates that they do have ace king, and that they think, you know, bluffing off with ace king, which is a hand I'm definitely going to be 3-betting with pre-flop. Pretty sure we're just free rolling a call at this point, hoping my opponent does get sticky with the ace high. They're in the tank for a while before going, all right, and then announcing that they call. I show my pocket 10 straight away, and then they show ace king of clubs, and then the river's a 10 of clubs, giving us a set. Very happy that we did decide to go all in on the turn, because it got us max value with our overpair here. So we've got another double board PLO bomb pot, and this time we've got ace king queen 8 with a suited king. I'm going to put both of the flops up there. You can see we do have middle pair on the top board and top 2 pair on the second board, and we're running hot because we start on the button for this hand. Big blind goes ahead and leads out for 25. Under the gun calls 25, as does the low jack. Then the action's on me. and I decide to call. I think raising with this hand will be a bit too thin, but we do have a lot of equity, particularly with our 2-pair, which is likely the best hand on the second board, but I don't want to go ahead and raise just because I do expect to get called by at least someone with a strong hand on the top board, and it feels a bit too thin. Maybe it is a good spot to do that as a bluff, and I'm missing the opportunity to try and get my opponent out of this hand. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. In game, I decided to call. Then the small blind calls as well. So we still go 4 ways to 2 different turns. The first turn is the ace of spades, giving us 2-pair, but putting in the front door flush. And the second turn is the 7 of hearts. Then the action checks around to the hijack, and they decide to pot it for 195. Now the action's on me here, and this is a pretty gross spot because we do have 2-pair on both boards, but I definitely think there's a very strong chance that the hijack is leading out with a made flush, and we're pretty sure we're behind with our 2-pair on that board. There's some chance we're ahead of them with our 2-pair on the second board, but we still have to worry about one of the other 2 players left to act. If they flops like a smaller flush, they call, we could be losing to both the hijack, who let out with a flush on the top board, and then one of them calling with a flush on the second board, in which case we're drawing to our outs to make a full house, which we do have. Problem is we do block some of our outs, having that there's already 3 8s out there, so we've only got 1 8, you know, try and hit an 8 to try and make a full house on like one of the boards and then only win half of the pot. We do have a few more outs if we hit a king or an ace, but I just feel like it's a bit too thin to be trying to call to hit one of those outs, and the chances that we are losing on both boards is somewhat likely with only 2-pair. This might be tight, but I decide to fold my hand right there. Maybe giving up a bit of value. Hop in the comments, let me know what you think of that hand. Then everyone else in the hand folds, and the low jack ends up showing what they had, which was King Jack 6-6 with 2 spades. So they did lead out with the made flush on the first board, but we were actually way ahead of them on the second board. In fact, they only had 3 outs to hit a jack. So yeah, pretty disappointed that we didn't throw in the call there, because we pretty much just folded out our equity, which was worth half of this massive pot. This next hand, the double straddle is on, so we're playing 1 3 6 12 for just this one hand, and then I am in the under the gun, which is actually the hijack because we're playing 6-handed, and I look down at 10-9 of hearts. I decide to raise it up to 35, and this is way too loose from the hijack with so many blinds. Really should just be folding this. I think I'm going to get myself into a lot of trouble playing at a low SPR. I'm trying to give action to the game a bit, but I think this is one of those spots where it's really just too negative EV to be opening this hand, and I should just be folding it. I made it 35, and then the cutoff to my direct left goes ahead and rips in their stack for 129. Action folds back round to me. I sort of just have to call at this point. I think being that we are so low SPR with a 1 3 6 12, their shoving range is going to be pretty wide, include a lot of like Broadway hands, even like pocket 6s, pocket 7s, and our equity against range that not only has the strongest hands like aces and kings, but some of those more middling strength hands, going to be getting the right price to call since it's so cheap for us. So I pretty much snap call the 129, and then we get to see a live run out for the vlog. The opponent has King Jack of clubs, so we're definitely very live with our suited connected here. Really hoping to hit a 10 or a 9. That's a good start. That's a bad turn. So behind so far, I need to hit a 10 or a 9. Repeat 8 is awful. Now we just need to hit a 9, and we can't do it on the 2 of hearts, so the opponent's going to scoop us on this pot. And this is something I talk about. I've talked about on the vlog before about how getting the first streets of a hand correct in your decision making is going to be the most important thing, because it's so easy for the initial mistakes that seem small to just snowball up, and then a small mistake in an early street ends up getting you stacked, and I really shouldn't have needed to pay off the 129 to my opponent if I was opening more sensible ranges. Next hand, we get a limp from the cutoff, button, big blinds. Then I'm in the straddle with 9-5 offsuit, and I decide to raise it up to 400. Just kidding. I take an easy spot to see free flop. I check. So we go 4 ways to a flop of Queen 6-5 with 2 clubs. When the action checks to me, easiest spot in the world to check back, try and see a free turn. Then the button checks as well. Then things get nice because the turn is the 5 of hearts giving us trips. When the action checks to me, definitely want to go ahead and bet for value. Pretty unlikely that anyone does have a queen. I really think a queen's just going to bet out themselves on the flop. So going to size down a bit, try and induce calls from a looser range of hands. I go ahead and bet 15, and then the button calls. So we're heads up to the river, which is the 4 of hearts, putting out the backdoor flush and completing some straights. Not the best river in the world for us, but still want to go ahead and bet for value, try and get called by 1 pair. I decide to make it 20, really trying to give those hands a good price. Then the opponent grabs 3 green chips and they raise it to 75. Pretty gross spot for us. My opponent definitely has a lot of flushes in their range, as well as some combinations of 7-8, which is a made straight. And even if they are raising for thin value with a 5, the chances that we're out kicked here with our 9 kicker is pretty high. They raise pretty large as well, so we're not getting a great price. So pretty sure that they have a flush or a better 5. So I do decide to make the pretty snug laydown with my trip 5s, and then the opponent asks if I want to see what they have, which is usually a bad sign after I fold. I'm finding out from these vlogs. Of course, I say yes that I want to see for the vlog, and there it is, ace-8 offsuit. So massive airball bluff, and they got off of our trip 5s. Well done, mate. So we've got yet another double board PLO bomb pot for everyone, and this time I have King 3-3. Now I'm going to chuck both of the flops up there. As you can see, absolutely beautiful. We have the nuts with top set on the second board and only an overpair on the first board, and then the big blind leads out for 40. Then the action gets to the hijack, who goes ahead and raises it to 190. When the action gets back to me on the button, the hijack started the hand with only about 300, so we really want to try and get all in with them. I think the chances that we're chopping with them are pretty likely, but if they do have a worse set or a flush draw on the second board, we definitely want to get stacks in with them as soon as we possibly can. So I go ahead and raise it up to 400. Maybe it's a bit of an overplay with people still left to act, but maybe it is a good spot to just try and deny equity to whatever they're floating with, backdoor flushes, just get it out now and try and get the heads up as soon as possible. Maybe that's a better strategy to these PLO bomb pots that I'm not really doing as much as I should be. So I do raise it to 400. And then the action fold, the big blind, who tanks a bit before folding themselves, before the action gets back around to the hijack. They snap call, putting the rest of their stack in. They ask us straight away if we have pocket kings. I tell them yes. Then they actually announce that they're drawing dead because they have pocket 9s. So we watch the board run out, ace-7 on the first board and 2-10 on the second board, without the front door flush getting in on the second board. So the opponent said that they were drawing dead with their 9s, and when they showed their other 2 cards were King Jack with no hard draw, they pretty much were drawing dead on the flop, and except for the 1-outer to hit a set on the second board, so pretty brutal for them. We're going to scoop this pot and absolutely running fire hot. So this is the last hand I actually got on the vlog for the evening, and it's a 1-3-6-12 hand yet again with a double straddle, and I am in the first straddle with the 6. The big blind limps it to me, then I look down at ace queen of diamonds, definitely going to go ahead and raise it up here. I go ahead and make it 60. Maybe I could go a bit smaller when we are playing a double straddle and the SPR is a bit lower, probably don't need to raise it up this much to achieve fold equity with hands in my range that want fold equity. Not that we necessarily want folds with ace queen of diamonds. Whatever the case, I go ahead and make it 60. Then the action's on the second straddle with the 12, and they 3-bet it to 212. This is the same opponent I doubled up earlier when I had 10-9 of hearts, so they have about 500-ish in their stack at this point. So when the action folds back to me, pretty interesting decision whether we want to go with our ace-queen suited here or not. Against tighter opponents, I think it might be a prudent spot to just lay the hand down, even though a first straddle versus second straddle dynamic is going to be like a very aggressive 3-bet, 4-bet dynamic. Against some opponents though, they really won't get it all in pre-flop with hands like ace-jack or pocket 8s even. But if the opponent is a bit more sensible and understands that we are playing very shallow stacked here, then the opponent should be willing to stack off with some of those hands pre-flop, in which case we definitely don't want to fold out our equity with a hand like ace-queen suited. I think this opponent is sensible, so I do decide to rip it all in for about 500. The opponent snap calls, and they show pocket jacks, and we've got another live run out, pretty high stakes one. We agree to only run it once. That is a bad turn. They do make a set. We need to hit a king to win. That is not a king, that is the 9 hearts, so the opponent's going to scoop us on this one. So running pretty bad with the all-ins pre-flop, but in all fairness, I guess I am getting it in pretty light in the ones we've done this session, running below our all-in EV at least. So there you go, those were the most interesting hands I ran over this session, and for today's gameplay grade, I'm going to go with a B. I think I made significant improvements on my performance from last week's game. I definitely attacked button bounties more aggressively, which you need to do with so much money on there. I think in general, I was just more focused in the game, more focused on making plus EV decisions. Definitely made a few mistakes, so I think my hand reading was a bit off in that hand where I folded the trip 5s. My opponent can definitely be floating such a small bet on the turn there, which gives them lots lots of bluffs in their range, so definitely could see myself defending trips there when I have it. Additionally, in the PLO double board bomb pots, I think I'm improving at them compared to when I started, but I'm still probably missing opportunities to try and deny equity to my opponents, or even probably getting rid of some of my holdings a bit too liberally. Probably should be holding on a bit more when I do have a hand like 2 pairs, so definitely still room for improvement there, but I liked that I was more aggressive pre-flops to try and take down button bounties, and overall gonna go with a B for today's session. Up here we've got the peak stack when we were running at our hottest. It's about 1.4, 1.5k-ish, which was before we had the hand with the ace queen against jacks, so we ended up losing a bunch off of our stack then, and then throughout the rest of the session we played a few more biggish hands that were basically 3-bet pots where I ended up either folding pre-flop after I 3-bet 4-5 suited, or I'd 3-bet like ace king and then I'd miss the flop and end up check folding multi-way. I didn't run the hottest, probably the last hour and a half, and ended up cashing out for 600 after I gave the dealer a tip to make it a nice even number. So I ended up booking a 100 loss on the session. Unfortunately, I was pretty frustrated after the session was over just because I ran bad. I tried to, be objective and not kick myself too much, but this loss did tilt me a bit just because I was so upstuck. That's how I feel about the results. So that's going to wrap it up for today. Thank you for sticking all the way to the end of the vlog. That really helps my channel's analytics and I do appreciate it. If you haven't already, hop in the comments below. Give me some feedback on these hands. Does anyone out there know how to play double board PLO bomb pots? Can you even play strategy in a game like that? Hop below and let me know. But for now, I'm out of here. Peace.